didn't see it. I don't think.
It was awesome.
All right. Let's wait for our faithful friends to plug into us here.
Am I in the shot, Jake?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Hey, there we are. Hello.
What's up, guys?
All right, let's get this thing started.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Our faithful friends to plug into us here.
Is that your computer?
Not anymore.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I thought I turned mine off.
Yeah.
I'm having some hearing issues. I will talk about that as well.
No, that's just your ears echoing.
That's right.
That's not a
I want to make
playback.
sure. Am I going crazy again? Or is
My hearing is 15 seconds delayed.
was my hearing for 15 seconds delayed?
All right, you guys, we are live. Let's get this thing rolling. Hi, and welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I am Jake Von During, and you are here listening to Dial Podcast number 47.
47.
Oh, man.
Closing in on a half century.
That's a lot.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It is.
And today I'm here with Lance Hepler.
Lance Romance with his pants on in studio.
It's hard to recognize you with your pants on.
Live.
Look
Live
at
and
me.
in
I have
studio.
pants on. Live in studio. Yeah.
To Lance's right, Mr. Evan Price.
How's it going? I don't have to do the Lance thing this week. I had to do your thing last week. It was very uncomfortable.
It
Evan
was,
Romance does not flow off the tongue like Lance Romance does.
It was terrible.
It was
actually.
bad. Yeah, it was very bad.
And Matt LeGrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs? How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
Great.
I see them on the computer. They all just said hi, and they're doing well. Yeah.
Thumbs up.
Yeah. All right. Let's get this thing started. Let's backpedal. I'm going to save Lance for last because I have a feeling he's got a lot
By
to
far
say.
the most interesting. Yeah.
I know
Yep.
that Evan and Matt had a pretty cool week. So let's start with Matt.
We had a cool one.
Yes, backpedal. Another solid week of swimming for me, and I swam, I think, 6 days this week, which is a lot, but somehow swam less meters than I did the previous week when I swam less frequent. So I don't know, whatever. But
It's all
yeah,
a wash.
swimming's going great, I think. I would say swimming's going solid. Biked a little bit, did the team bike on Tuesday, which was really fun, except for so Jake was leading, and you know your stickler like, hey guys, 2 watts per kilo, and I'm looking over at his thing and it's like 3.5 watts per kilo.
What the heck, Jake?
I was trying to keep up with you guys.
You were
That's
so I took some screenshots just because I was like, if he denies it, I'm just gonna be like, there's evidence, Jake. Here you are, ahead of me, pushing
I'd
3.5 watts per
double
kilo.
what the watts per kilo said.
Yeah. No, it's cool. That's a really fun ride. Like that is.
Okay, real quick though, were we on a climb?
It happened so many times, Jake.
Oh, there's a lot of climbs.
No, it's fine. And honestly, like, it seemed like a hard effort, but like that's the reason to do those team rides.
Was it worse the week before when I ran it and Jake wasn't there?
When you ran it, I think it was a little bit more mellow.
Thank you.
Which was good because then I had.
It was a little bit.
Honestly,
Only a little bit
it
more
doesn't
mellow.
matter that much because like as soon as we start going hard, I'm out the back. Like, and that's okay. Like, I just hate to be out the back after 10 minutes into the ride, and that's okay. But I mean, I think we work hard on those Tuesdays, and just like for me, it's good because I'm earmarking that day as like this is going to be a hard ride for me. Like, it's not a hard ride for everyone, but for me, like this is a hard ride where I'll like go into it a little more recovered and like know that I'll have to rest a little bit the day afterwards, and just I'll go hard until I make it to the end where you guys all start going hard, and then I give it my last effort, and then I cool it down.
That's good.
So
There you go.
it's gonna. I think it's gonna help.
That's the reason for the meetup. It's for the extra motivation.
Yeah.
Chase that carrot. Yep.
Yeah.
I went to the track one morning, which was cool.
Nice.
On the nothing killer. But the really cool thing for my back pedal was getting to race with Evan here.
Woo.
And a couple of other of our friends all hopped in, and we did like this indoor triathlon. And the format was 10 minutes swim as far as you can, 20 minutes bike as far as you can, 10 minutes run as far as you can, all indoors, like treadmill. And then we did kicker snaps. So I was like, swim went well. And
Matt killed it in the swim.
Yeah, I was first out of the water, and then we don't have to talk about the rest of it. So
And that's all that matters.
that's the only thing that matters. the interesting thing that one of the things I thought was interesting was the kicker snaps, right? And I'm not blaming like, the accuracy or anything. It doesn't much matter. I feel like the accuracy of the
was
whole
more the
thing
effort of the day was
and
fun.
it was like I was pushing really hard. And it was good because like I calibrated my power meter because we kind of had a little bit of time in between swimming and getting on the bike because there was some technical issues with the kicker snaps.
Yeah.
And so I got rolling and I'm looking at my watts on my watch, which are connected to my pedals. And the snap has its own power source or whatever. And that's was showing up on the screen for Evan, but it was showing like a percentage of FTP for me. And I was holding like a nice steady whatever, but I didn't know what that number was. But you get
it goes
this
off our like Wahoo profile,
Yeah.
which I'm not even sure when I set that up.
right? Like I set that up,
Yeah.
and sometimes I'll change my numbers or whatever. But so I was looking at that, and then so you don't really know what your average watts were until you get home and you get the email or whatever. And I was super busy, right? Like after that, I had a whole bunch of other stuff to do, so I didn't really check it out for a while. And Alan Plank sent me a message. Alan Plank did awesome. The guy
he
is
killed
a
the
stud.
bike.
Like
Yeah.
he's a stud. Like he's just
cool.
doing. He's super cool. He did really well. I was super proud of him.
He'll
He's
be
just-
riding well with us this year.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. Yeah.
and he was like, hey, here, he sent me a text and he was like, here are my numbers, like the kicker was a little bit off. I don't remember what his numbers were as far as they were off or whatever. And so it took me like a whole day to reply to him because, that's when I finally looked at the numbers and stuff like that. I think I averaged 251 watts or something like that for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Natural normalized power was 268 or something. So I must not have done a good job keeping it steady. What do you think the kicker email was? Evan might have a little bit of.
I have a pretty good idea what it
you
probably
might have a
said
good
yours
guess.
was.
Jake, what do you think my kicker snap said my average power was?
Oh, a heck of a lot lower than what it probably should have been.
was,
I'm
yes.
guessing you were probably off by 75 watts.
Okay. You want to take a guess?
150.
Okay. Good guess.
I'm gonna say it had your watts at 180, so I'm gonna agree with Jake. It's gonna be close to what Jake said.
You guys you guys overestimated the amount of miscalculation to the Wahoo kicker. It said 199, which
yeah.
that's 51. It's like
50 watts.
51 or
Still.
52 watts or something like
That's
that. I was like,
significant.
I was
Yeah.
like, wow, that is crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if it's like, there could be a whole bunch of different reasons why it
Well,
might
it was
not
a
be
different
off or
program it was like the Level Up program on the Wahoo snaps. Have you guys done the Level Up before?
I thought that that was a good program because then you can adjust tension by your gearing.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. I had no idea what I was doing the entire time on that thing.
Yeah. Well, I looked at your watts and I was like, his numbers are way off.
Yeah.
But I'll let you backpedal when it's your turn, and
Yeah.
it's not your turn, so just shut up.
I'm gonna keep quiet over here.
But then running was good. I had fun on the treadmill, and we were all like four friends, like four buddies, like all next to each other on the treadmill and stuff like that. It
Just
was all-
hammering away.
Yeah, well,
That part's pretty fun when
it
you're
was
just
pretty cool.
yeah
it was good.
running
And,
in place.
and Derek and I were close. Actually, Derek and I
You
had,
guys tied.
I think we had the same numbers. I
Yeah.
actually think that Derek and I basically overall had pretty much the same numbers, which was cool.
Yeah.
But I ended up getting fourth. So a beat down from these guys, basically.
The numbers are a little bit skewed, so
The numbers aren't accurate, but still, I still think that like I was
the
fourth.
entire race was basically decided on the bike because it's done by pure distance. So like we've already talked about, the swim really didn't matter.
It's pure distance, so the swim, doesn't matter.
You can make
Yeah.
50 meters up on the bike in
Yeah.
30 seconds
Yeah.
if you
Right.
wanted to.
But
yeah.
but I did win.
Oh.
I did win the swim.
Oh,
Yeah. Just
congratulations.
It doesn't matter.
It's a swim champ. Swimming 6 times a week has been
It's
paying
not-
off.
You can't really win necessarily because it's a triathlon, but I did win the swim.
Yeah, but I was
All
first
right.
out of the water in this one.
And the other cool thing about my week was I was able to get a 10-mile long run in. So
Oh, good.
It was nice. Yeah, in sloppy conditions. So it
The
was,
Achilles is coming back.
I don't know. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, and then I got to swim with the Evan Price. Just now, on Mondays we're starting to develop a little bit of a rhythm of just being like, hey, we swim in the morning, then we come to the podcast, and
Yep.
I think those are going to be really helpful. So
And we will be classically late to the podcast, almost.
Classically late.
That's the
Yeah.
part that people don't get to see on the live is me and Matt rushing in real
Rushing
last
in.
minute.
Yep.
Gonna make it.
Yep. So that was my backpedal. Great week. Good.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good numbers, and I feel like I've got 2 solid weeks, and it's starting to come around.
Good.
So
Mhm.
yep, happy.
How about you, Evan?
Mine's just gonna like dovetail Matt's because
Yeah.
we lived a very similar week together, but there was
Except for you did about twice the training that I did,
I
which is okay.
I had enough I'm going to start sharing my training on the podcast for the sake of just keeping myself honest. Because I know that if I have a bad week, I have to share it. So that'll kind of motivate me to not have a bad week then.
Did you break 20 hours?
Yeah. I was 10 and change on the bike for hours. A lot of intensity on the bike this week, though. A lot more than I did a 10 or 15 by 1 minute workout, which is not something I'm accustomed to doing.
How much recovery do you do in between your minute?
Full
minute?
I was doing 3 minutes in between each because I wanted
Gotcha.
like full max for each one.
Gotcha.
Which was, I'd almost rather have just done 1 minute on, 1 minute off because I wouldn't have been able to
What
actually go
What
as
do you hit
max.
for those 400s? Right around there?
Oh no, I was hitting 490, 500
Oh my
ish.
gosh.
Yeah, I was liking the numbers I was seeing there.
Nice.
But then
That's full on sprint, man.
Yeah.
That's moving.
I'm trying in the sprint. I'm trying in the pool. I'm like doing 25s. I'm doing 400s on the track. I'm trying to actually, not be like slow in short distance now, which is very strange for me because I'm used to being pretty slow.
Bold move.
Bold move, Cotton. Yeah. 63 miles run with a ton of intensity sprinkled into the run, and then 15K in the pool.
15K?
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, that's just another week. 3 weeks in a row now, around 22 to 24 hours of training.
Jeez. That's,
So
you're super consistent.
we're gonna see if I can keep that up for now. I feel fine, so I think I can keep it going for like the next probably 8-9 weeks.
You should probably still cycle your training. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna tell you how to structure your
Yeah.
training, but the whole
I'm probably gonna
like,
need to sprinkle in something.
so down week or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So we'll see. But yeah, then Saturday was a big training day for me. Woke up and got to race with the boys, which was absolutely fun.
I felt like the boys
I did-
were back in town. The song should have been playing.
The boys were absolutely back in town. But there was the bummer for me was I wanted to swim right next to Derek and Matt.
Yeah.
And my swim, I got shoved all the way against the wall, which for anybody who's ever swam here is like not the fastest place to be in the entire world.
In the gutter.
So Matt kicked my booty. I think he still would have kicked my booty regardless, but I wanted to hang on to you longer, and I think I could have been close. But
There's some little things like I went off.
we've
the
been
dive.
swimming well together
Yeah,
lately, which
yeah,
is
that's
good.
right.
Yeah.
It's been good.
Yeah. So Matt was first out of the water. We jumped on the bikes and definitely was not seeing the power numbers that I know I put out. So it was a little bit
it was a kick
discerning.
your snap problem.
It was a little
I was
bit
looking-
disconcerting,
so-
to be honest.
So we don't know what your real differential is, but like I
Yeah.
was looking and I was like, it's like Evan was like 219, like
Yeah.
and it kept saying like 219,
Yeah.
220, and I was
Every
like,
single time I
like,
tried to
this is
click
Evan.
up, I would like click up and get up to 280 and it would just drop right. Like effort didn't
Match.
decrease, nothing. It was just like all of a sudden it'd be like 165. It'd be
Then
like, what is going on?
I think
Like,
you had some dropouts too, because then I think
Yeah.
it would like cycle all the way down like way
yeah,
below.
it was like
200.
it was like dropping down to 150 with no effort change on my part. So
Yeah, there was some-
the effort still felt off. Like 20
Yeah.
minutes, I was still felt really hard. So
Yeah.
that was what was important. But
And then
But yeah.
treadmill, what was interesting is you started up fast. Like you did a good job of
Oh.
like getting right into it.
yeah, which was good because sometimes when you see low numbers, you get
that better?
kind of angry. Kind of like a Blue Lake when I like took a wrong turn and then ran really fast. It just makes me angry. So that's good. Sometimes racing angry is good. So-
Yeah. It was good because you didn't seem that stressed about it, which is good.
Well, I've done so many bike workouts to power now. I know roughly what my FTP is, and I know it's in that right now. It's in that 310 to 320 range, and I know
Yeah.
it'll get more here. Like
Right.
I know I'm progressing well. So
yeah. Okay.
we'll see this Saturday though. This is forward pedaling, but we got a fun
Forward
ride
pedal.
coming up this Saturday. So
What's going on Saturday?
ooh, Jake will share that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to the important back pedal.
Mr. Lance Hepler, where have you been, bud?
I've done nothing.
You ditched us last week.
I just been laying on the
Glorious.
couch.
Just glorious.
I spent a week in Turks and Caicos on a liveaboard scuba dive boat.
Livable.
Where is
Yeah.
that?
So it's in the Caribbean.
Okay.
It's I don't know, a few hundred miles south of Miami.
Okay. All right.
So I actually flew to Fort Lauderdale and spent
Oh yeah.
yeah, we spent a
mother-in-law.
couple days in Fort Lauderdale, and actually, I rented a bike while I was there. I found a bike shop and got on a bike and put in 70 hard miles one day.
I saw that on
Yeah.
your Strava. Yeah.
Did you go
that
to
was
the
cool.
brewery?
I did. I went to my brother-in-law's brewery.
Do they have the food trucks?
They had food trucks. It
Nice.
was fantastic. It was busy. There was lots of people there.
And what's the name of his brewery place again?
Gulfstream?
Gulfstream Brewing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, he's doing well. It was great to see my brother-in-law and hang out with them and
Good.
their
Nice.
family and all that was good. So, Friday morning, we woke up and we were supposed to jump on a plane from Fort Lauderdale down to Turks and Caicos.
Okay.
And it's just like an hour and a half flight. It's a pretty short flight, but it's an international flight. And I completely misjudged the time I needed to be at the airport.
Oh no.
And I showed up. My wife and I showed up at the airport like an hour and a half early. But the time we got to the gate to check our bags, it was 50 minutes before the flight, and they had closed it already.
Oh my gosh.
Oops.
Wait, they closed it
50 minutes because it was an international flight.
Yeah.
They'd already turned the flight over. So we're like checking in with our bags, and the lady's like, "You guys missed it." We're like, "What?" No, I'm a detail guy. I don't miss details like this. We are not too late. The flight doesn't leave for 50 minutes. We should be fine. She's like, "No, they've already taken control. There's like nothing we can do." Guess how many flights a day go from Miami?
One.
One.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
you have to catch a boat, so
We
you
have
are
to-
like.
Well,
It's
we had
super
planned to get to the island a day early,
Ugh.
so luckily those details weren't. But
That's
yeah,
good that you got there a day early then.
yeah, it was total screw up on my part. I've never screwed up that bad travel details before, because we had to rent another car, we had to find another hotel for the night again because it was
my gosh.
totally our screw up. But I just went right back to the bike shop and said, "Is that bike still available?" And they said, "Yep." And I'm like, "Can I take it for 4 hours?" And they're like, "Yep, it's yours." So I went and rode again and
Were they
rode
letting
my.
you rent it by a 4-hour block?
Yeah,
Or-
it was like-
That's pretty good.
It was $45 or something for a 5-hour block.
That's great.
$45 for a 5-hour
pretty good
block is a
deal.
really good deal. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a decent bike. It was a BMC
Yeah.
actually, which is one of our sponsors,
Hey,
which
there
is
you go.
great. A lower level BMC, but you know,
But who cares?
Yeah, who cares? I was just
Did you find any hills in Florida?
no 0. There's no hills in Florida. And
Overpass.
There's,
How hot was it?
it
Pretty,
was
pretty cool, like
it was
70?
It was 75.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the weather was great, but it
Yeah.
was yeah, it's dead flat. There's really only one decent spot to ride, and it's right up the highway A1A or whatever it's called. So
Yeah.
there's not a whole lot of variety. So I did the exact same ride 2 days in a row.
Still got the miles in though.
But yeah, I still managed to put in 14 hours that week or something. But
Yeah.
then I went on the boat trip and pretty much recorded a 0 because you know I was there
my-
scuba diving.
I got you beat last week.
You beat me last week.
So it was
It's like I went out to swim.
There you go.
Cycling 0, cinnamon rolls. How many cinnamon
Oh
rolls?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There we
yeah,
go.
we'll
I
get
need
to
to
that
go.
in our next segment. That should be fun to talk about. But yeah, I mean, all we did was I dove 5 times a day. We woke up, you get in the water before breakfast. You know, we did nothing but dive and nap and eat. That's all I did
That's awesome.
for a week, which was nice. You know, it was nice to do that. It was. I shouldn't say this because my wife is listening, but it was a couple days
She's
too
probably
long
listening
for
live.
me.
Be really careful. Should I stop you right now? Or
You
is
should
this?
stop me.
Yeah.
It was the perfect amount of time, is what he meant to say. I think.
Well, no, not with her. I love traveling with Brandy. She's great, but it was like a couple days too long for me
Yeah.
to be
On the water.
on the water, to be gone. And
oh, was your the seasickness was really
you
getting
know
to
what?
You too?
I had 0.
Oh,
I did
nice.
not throw up
Really?
once.
All right, that's not
So
gonna-
that
that's not gonna help
part
your
of
challenge.
helping my weight loss challenge did not help at all.
No.
So yeah, the seas were really calm.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I had no issues with that at all.
And you saw you saw sharks, you saw
We
sea
did.
turtles.
We
you
saw sharks and turtles and moray eels and
Wow.
What is it
thousands
like?
of fish.
What is it like seeing a shark?
You know,
I've never swam next to a shark.
these were like 4 to 6 foot reef sharks,
That's a big shark.
which they're like dogs in the water.
Really?
Yes, these types of sharks, they're just not interested in you. We're too big.
Got it.
So
Okay.
they're just kind of cruising around to see if you're going to disturb something that they can take advantage of. But they really don't bother you. And it's not like I wasn't diving with a group where they chum the water to try to attract more
Yeah.
people in. You have to wear chainmail suits so that if they inadvertently bite you, they don't take a chunk out of you. They were just like cruising by. So a lot of people freak out about sharks and sea lions, but there was none of that.
One
Did
of
you sneak sea lions?
one of those is a pretty reasonable fear. The other one's completely,
Just sharks are the reasonable
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I did manage to go sea kayaking a couple of times.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they had a sea kayak on top of the boat, and there were 2 days where we skipped one of the midday dives and said, "Brandy, let's go see if we can get a little bit of aerobic activity and go sea kayaking." There was no aerobic activity with it at all, but it was great to.
Did you? Was the
Kinda
sea
get out.
kayak full of cinnamon buns and?
That's right. Here's a pack of
Donuts.
food.
self-propelled.
Yeah, but the diving was great, so we had a really good time.
That's awesome.
The very last day, I ended up having a problem with one of my ears. So my left ear currently is still blocked. I can't hear out of my left
What?
ear. Yeah, that's
Is it-
right.
Are you
Yeah.
okay? It's not like
It's
it's
yeah.
not damaged, right?
I
Or-
don't think it's damaged. I have a doctor's appointment this afternoon.
You do? Okay, good.
But literally, it's like my left ear just never popped, and it's like all swollen in there,
Okay.
and I just can't.
That's not something that could be tied to the actual diving camp.
Yeah, for sure. It could have, it could have gotten irritated or
Definitely.
infected or
Definitely.
yeah, that happens with diving. But
Oops.
yeah, and then I flew 2 4.5 hour
Yeah.
flights to get back, and
Yeah.
I couldn't stop doing that, so it was kind of crazy. But
Actually, yeah, it was probably the flights combined with the water getting stuck in yours over
Well,
that time period.
it all happened before I got on the
Oh,
planes.
before you did?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was like, it's irritating, It just makes me grumpy.
Yeah.
And I can't think straight because it's better with headphones on because it kind of cuts all the noise. But I take the headphones off and it's like I still have headphones on my left
Ugh.
side. So
Yeah.
it's
Dude. Okay, well, hopefully the doctor's appointment, they take a look and see what's going on, and there's probably swelling back there. and-
yeah. And I've read all of course, I'm a Google expert with
Yeah,
swimmers here.
WebMD.
Are you?
Yep.
Oh man,
Yeah,
it's good to
it's-
see you at the same table with a real
It's
Google.
right, I'm a
expert.
real Google expert.
Not only you're a dentist, you're also an ear doc.
That's right. So usually these things just take time, and it's probably just going to take time, and it could take weeks
Are you-
actually for it to go away.
Any sort of like ibuprofen or anything that they?
Yeah,
they-
anti-inflammatories help.
Does Google? Is that what Google
Yeah,
suggests?
Google
Okay.
suggests anti-inflammatories.
Does Google suggest swimming with Evan and Matt too?
No,
Chlorine
there's
knocks it
not-
out.
Not getting in the pool.
Okay.
That's for sure. But yeah, I couldn't record an absolute zero when I got back late last night. I did jump on my bike and went for a couple hours ride. So I recorded 2 hours last week and felt terrible the whole time.
This will be the only week that Lance is at the bottom of the pile.
No,
like
he's like
Matt,
that's
Matt
like
beat
close
him
to
this
me,
week.
right? No,
yeah,
I think I'm probably like 2.5 hours. I mean, like it's probably like
still
we're
a
like
win.
neck and
Still
neck,
a win.
neck and neck, or something like that. All right.
So that was my week.
Real quick, if people wanted to go and see some imagery or some videos, where can they check said videos out?
It's either on my Facebook page, Lance Hepler, or on my Instagram account, which
Yeah.
is at Dr. Hep, at DRHEPP. I did post some little short video clips of
Those
some of
were
the scuba
awesome,
diving
and
stuff.
that's the reason why I had to bring that up.
Yeah.
So
I need to
gotta
check these
share.
out. Yeah,
Ryan Lee's comment is reef sharks are like the dogs of the water, and sea lions are like the bears in the water.
That's right.
I feel like our podcast has come full circle.
yes,
Perfect.
good.
Perfect.
I'm glad we're all getting an appreciation for the viciousness
there-
of sea lions here.
There are some sharks that are not like dogs, but these ones that we were diving with
Yeah.
were.
What kind of dog would you say?
Like a golden retriever?
Like no, because they're not that friendly. They
Oh,
don't.
they're
They don't
not.
want anything to do with you. They
they more
just
like
They're
cats?
just like around.
Okay.
They're like the stray dog in
oh
in-
yeah.
Gotcha.
Chile or in
Yeah.
Like-
South America.
or in South America or in at the Sochi Olympics. There
Where
were
the-
like stray dogs
Yeah.
everywhere, right?
hoping you're gonna
they're
drop
like
some
that.
food, right?
Yeah,
They're
just
They're-
hoping you're
They're
gonna
just like
drop
real
something.
street smart dogs. Like they don't want any part of you.
That's right. That's right.
All right, my backpedal real quick so we can get into this thing. I am 41 days into a training block, and I'm starting to feel the love. And we'll get into that a little bit more in the next segment. And then
We are all gonna get destroyed here soon, guys.
uh,
It's gonna feel great.
then this was just another good week of training, just a bunch of training piled on top of more good training. And then the whole week was kind of pulled together with a really fun time. We got to build 15 bikes of the bikes that are coming in for our Bikes for Kids campaign, which is pretty cool.
That's so cool. I'm so sad I missed that. That was a bummer to miss the bike
sure
build.
if it was 15. I thought it was 15. That's
it's
awesome.
15. So we have more coming on the way. We actually just had a couple more donations come in. So they'll afford us the ability, I think, to get 3 or 4 more bikes. And these will be like not the smaller kid bikes, but more of like an adult sized bike. So you got some 15, 16-year-olds that are going to get a bike now as well. So that's kind of cool.
And the bikes, what surprised me the most is the bikes are so nice. They are like probably
They're Cannondale bikes,
they're
right?
nicer than all
Yeah.
my bikes. They're way nicer than all
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like disc brakes and gears and like
Oh, nice.
like beautiful green. I mean, there's multiple colors, but still, I mean, it was really impressive. They're
Yeah.
nice bikes.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun and hanging out with people and from the team. Like you were there, Matt. You got a chance to hang out with everybody. So that was just a good time. And I'm really jonesing and super excited to actually go hand these over. I just can't wait to look and see the looks on their faces. So that should be a lot of fun. But that was pretty much my week. So
Will you post that
That's
picture?
a busy week. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We posted
did
a
post it?
picture of
Okay.
the bikes on our Dialed Cycling Team Instagram and Facebook page. You can see the 15 bikes that we built there.
Maybe
and
we
then-
can repost it on the Dial Podcast stuff if we can remember.
Yeah, Matt was gracious to come over and take some video. So there'll be a little video project coming out once the
that's
whole
cool.
thing is come
Yeah.
full circle,
Yeah.
been done.
Should be good.
So, yeah. All right. Enough of me.
Did you get 10 hours ish?
Yeah.
or on the
That's what I
bike?
was going to ask. 10 hours?
It's 9.5.
Nice.
So
9.5.
Perfect.
I,
Yeah. Still
it was
good.
one of those things. I came
better than
actually,
2.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was so tired yesterday, and I was gonna try and squeak out 10 hours, and I'm looking at it, and I just stopped. I finished it because I wanted to get to 200 miles. I finished at 198.5.
Yeah, you're like,
I wanted to get
why?
to 10 hours. I was like at
Why
9
is it
hours and 30 something minutes or something like that. I'm like, I'm done. I just
Yeah.
need to get off.
That's
So
it.
yeah, but still, it was good.
That can dovetail into our main topic actually too. I
Yeah.
had the same sort of thing. I was like 2 hours yesterday. I was like, could have gone 3. No, like why? Why would I go there? There was no
Yeah.
point to do that.
I got to get through this week, and then we've got a cool team ride coming up on Saturday,
Yeah.
and then we've got our
Long ride.
group Swift ride on Tuesday, and I've got a few training block programs to work on,
Be a big
training
week.
sessions to work on in there. So it'll be another big week, but then I get to transition into a recovery week that will get me set up nicely for the training camp. So yeah, I'm kind of excited about that.
That's coming up, Matt.
I know.
It's right around the corner.
Dun, dun,
Weight
dun,
loss
dun, dun.
challenge.
Oh.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Lance,
Why are you starting with me?
cinnamon rolls, baby.
Should we go? Should we go top to bottom or bottom to top?
All right, so
Inquiring minds want to know.
So for those of us that are listening to us and are not watching the live stream, I came in and Lance's face looks hollowed out. Like he looks lean. He
Yeah.
might just
Okay.
because I don't know what's going on, but
I
think he just read the.
I need a ratio of cinnamon rolls to pukes.
I didn't puke
What?
once.
yeah.
Oh,
I
I
did
thought for
not-
sure you'd at least be shoving
I-
your finger down your
I,
throat. going,
I should have.
He's trying to bend still arrest by dehydrating himself today. I think is what he did.
No.
No, I did ride 2 hours on the trainer this morning, and I
Okay.
haven't eaten
Yeah.
yet today. So
That's why
what
he's so,
it is.
that's why he's so
So-
cranky.
so it's like-
That in the ear.
everybody shut up for a second. I'm trying to talk.
It's cranky, man.
No, let's see. Before I got on the boat, I weighed myself at the hotel, and I was actually down 4 pounds.
Nice.
Yeah,
Good.
so I'm thinking, okay, I'm on track. But I got on the boat, and I ate all the food. I ate all of it.
Good.
It wasn't like
Good.
Oh, I'm gonna skip the snack. No, if there was a snack, I ate it. I woke up and had full breakfast, and then I ate a full lunch, and then I had dinner, and I was the only one that went back for a second plate of food. I'm talking, I ate all the food. It was terrible for the weight loss challenge.
I was just worried that I was like, what if he like skips some of the stuff and I was like messes up his vacation? Like that's not fair.
I seriously thought about it. I thought, okay, I'm in the middle of this challenge, but forget it. I am on this vacation.
Cinnamon rolls are delicious.
I got a professional chef cooking for me.
Yeah,
I'm gonna eat his food, and so we'd go for a dive. I'd have breakfast. We'd go for another dive. We'd come out, and he'd made fresh guacamole and chips, and I like ate half of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
There's 18 people on the boat. I ate half of it, just me.
These people are like, who is
They're
this
like,
guy?
what? Lance, stop eating. They brought me for dinner one day. We had like there was filet mignon and
gosh.
lobster one night for dinner, and they had prepared a plate and came out
And they were
ate
like,
it.
lobster or filet mignon? And you were
No,
like,
I'm like,
both.
yes.
Both, yeah.
Yes.
Seconds of both, please.
I eat this plate, and the lady comes back. She goes, "Was that good? Did you like that? Do you want some more?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do want some more." She goes, "What do you want?" And I'm like, "All of it." They brought me a whole nother plate. I ate a whole nother meal.
If you think about it, like you paid for all. I mean, like the way here's my problem is I'm so cheap.
Yeah.
Like
I'm gonna
like,
eat all that food
we paid
twice.
for it. Like we went to
Yeah.
Disneyland. I'm like, we paid for all this food. I'm
That's
gonna
right.
Eat it all.
Yeah,
I'm gonna eat all this
absolutely.
stuff.
It's
You don't
killer.
skimp on food on a boat when
Yeah.
somebody's giving you filet mignon.
That's awesome that they
Yeah.
had a chef, like a gourmet
It was
chef.
gourmet
for you
chef, and
guys.
it was 3
Wow.
meals a day plus 2 snacks a day. It was stupid.
Oh,
It was
awesome.
so
Sounds
much food.
How good were
good.
the cinnamon rolls?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
What was the best thing?
The filet mignon.
Really? Was it? Oh,
Oh yeah, the red meat just cooked right. I gotta stop.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So-
You're mid-starve right
oh my
now.
bad. He's not eating.
So it's like I haven't been hungry for like 3 days
Yeah.
because I ate so much food on this
That's
trip.
why his face looks so sunken. He
That's
hasn't
right.
eaten in 3 days.
So yeah, so I get home, I weigh myself, and I was actually only up 2 pounds.
not bad.
No
That's
way.
not
I
bad.
was only up
Wait, that's not
two
bad.
Are you-
pounds.
Are you so
2 pounds from the
you're
4 that you
total
lost.
down. You're still totally your total
So I was
number down
up
is 2.
6. Right.
Oh,
So
okay,
I'm,
got
I'm,
it.
I'm total up 2.
Okay, got it.
So
got it.
I was down 4 before the trip.
Yeah.
I was up 2 afterwards.
That's
So,
good.
so only gained 6 pounds.
So I
though.
only gained 6
That's not bad in
pounds
10 days
by-
after eating that much
by
good
eating
food.
all
wait.
the food.
Oh, you're up 2.
I'm
I'm
up
sorry.
2.
So
I
a
thought you were
6-pound
down
gain
2.
from when you
Gotcha.
started on the trip.
Correct.
So in the competition, now you have to lose 12. Is what
now
you're
I
saying.
have to lose 12.
Okay.
Hence, I haven't eaten today, and I've already been on the trainer for 2 hours.
You're probably down by tomorrow. Like
You'll
back down to that 4.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
So
You'll be back in the mix.
our public should know that we do not condone starving yourselves. For
Nothing
a-
we're doing in this contest should ever be what
No.
anybody else does.
We are not medical professionals. Well, Evan
Well,
kind of is, but
we were.
we're not health medical professionals.
I have
So
my
anyway.
license taken away after
Yes,
this.
I know. So that's me. I'm up 2 pounds overall.
How about
Yeah.
you, Mr. Price?
I am at 152 right now.
Good. It's impressive.
I'm 5 down. Started at 157. I'm 152.
But
I don't think I can make it. I just don't think I can make it. I'm training like around 24 hours a week over the next couple weeks. I just don't see myself being able to lose 5 pounds on top of what I've already lost.
maybe we should switch this around and like we'll all lose the 10, but you have to gain it.
No,
do that?
God, no. I don't want to be running 60 some miles a week with another 10 pounds on top of me.
So you think you've bottomed out?
I don't know. Maybe we'll see. We'll see how this next week goes, because I'll have a little bit bigger training week this week. So
right.
Good.
like volume wise, maybe not intensity wise, but definitely volume wise. So if I can get down to 150, then screw it. I'm just gonna like not eat for a day and get down to 147 and end this thing.
yeah,
If I get to 150, I promise I'm just gonna end it.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let
I'll
us know when
I'll
you get
take
to
a
150
picture.
so
Well, I'm gonna take a picture
we
for
can all
proof,
go in.
and then it's just I'll just end it if I get there.
I feel like we should be careful. Like you should have to hit that number like 2 days in a row.
Oh,
so
God,
that,
no,
so that
please
none
no.
of us, so that none of us like go in dehydrated and
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
and
it's
win
gonna
it that
train her
way
for
or something.
4 hours the night before. And
Yeah.
No, I'm still doing the morning thing, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's- I'm
Morning-
pretty
morning
dehydrated in the
protocol.
morning usually.
How about
All
you,
right.
Matt?
I had a good week to begin with, and everything was looking good, and I was down like 5 pounds from the start of stuff, and I was like, oh, this is good. We're looking good. Like, you know, like maybe another week of this, and I could actually pull this thing off. And then the weekend came around, and I went back. I
Like
went back
football
up.
games.
It was
and-
It was like
yeah.
I went back up one day, and then up another 2 pounds like the next day. So now
So that
I'm.
beer I gave you that paid off.
It did, yeah.
Nice.
It was. So I think I'm only down 3 pounds right now, which is pretty weak. So
It's not bad. You're only like, I mean, we're basically right next to each other then.
no, I'm only down 3 pounds total from the. So I have 7 to go, and you have 5
5
to go.
to go, yeah.
But yeah, I still
Yeah.
I still feel like I can get you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jake is the one I'm worried about. Jake, because he's been so steady and consistent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm all over the place.
I
up and
have
down.
nothing significant to contribute to this conversation.
Are you still? Are
Are you gonna win?
Are you at 0?
Have you won?
Not yet. No, well, you guys were wanting updates. I
Yeah.
don't have an update for you
Oh.
because I haven't weighed myself the last couple of mornings.
Oh, that
I
makes me
get up
even more
every single
nervous.
morning, and the past couple mornings, my wife has been home this weekend and today as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she usually likes to sleep in, so I'm the one that'll go downstairs and I'll make
Right.
the coffee, and we always have like a glass of water with some a little bit of fresh squeezed lemon, and a little bit of apple cider vinegar in there. And I've been so thirsty waking up in the mornings because I think I'm a little bit dehydrated right
Yeah.
now, that I just start pounding. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to weigh myself. So,
Yep. Yep.
And Evan knows this when I come in to visit him
Yeah.
at physical therapy. It's just like going on the bike rides. I'm not kidding you. 20, 30 minutes into physical therapy,
Yep.
it's my cycling life has followed me into my physical therapy life. I got to stop and go to the bathroom
Yeah.
because
Yep.
I've been drinking
Jake,
so many
Jake hits
fluids.
the arm bike. System gets going. Immediately got to go to the bathroom.
What was your numbers the last time you did weigh in?
So here, when I first
6
when we
pounds?
first started, I was just a couple ounces underneath 197, and that's
Yeah.
heavy for me. And then the smallest of the lowest number that I've seen so far is 198. But that was also like after a trainer session. And,
You mean
and
188?
I'm 189. I'm sorry.
189,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So 189. So that's a pound away from almost
winning.
or a
Yeah.
pound or two away from doing it. But and that wasn't after a long taxing ride.
Yeah.
But I've been drinking so many fluids, and I've been
Right.
eating pretty conservatively, and intermittent fasting and training, all that stuff.
Yeah, he's gonna win
I
this
need
thing.
I need to go weigh myself and follow the protocol.
Jake may have already won the. If you weigh yourself tomorrow dehydrated, Jake
Well,
may have already finished
Here's
this thing.
part of the problem, though, and this is Evan trying to sabotage me. He's got me
Yeah.
doing all these home exercises, and
That's
then
true.
you couple that with the fact that I'm adding a lot more like sharpened intensity into my
Right.
my workouts.
He's putting on some muscle.
I'm
yeah.
gaining muscle mass, and so my
Yeah.
body weight's not changing, but my body composition is changing quite a bit, and that's a good
Yeah.
thing because I need to get back into being my normal self.
Yeah.
But it's really hard for me because there's so many things that are ebbing and flowing right now that I can't give you a true like number. Like I should have taken a body composition analysis. I've got the skin full calipers here. I should have just gotten some baseline numbers to see how things have changed.
Yeah.
Because I can see like size and definition coming
Visually,
into my
that's changed
legs.
quite a bit. Yeah.
And I'm starting to gain a little bit of like strength in like my core and
Mm-hmm.
my upper body. Well, at least the right side's starting to develop. The left side's like little. It's like Finding Nemo. You know, he's got
Coming
his little
along.
like
Yeah,
wings.
it's-
It's like a piece of
it's-
crap. That's me. It's like maybe that'll be my name this year's Nemo. But, anyway, so that's just kind of what I've been dealing with. So I've like excessive hydration and dehydration are giving me some weird numbers. The training and then the body composition changes. So I'll try and give you guys a steadfast number here this week. But I've been like spot on. I haven't really missed anything. I haven't been eating poorly. I've been eating soundly and been following a 16-8 intermittent fasting, and I've only been coming off of that one day on the weekends.
16-8. That's good.
Yeah.
Did you eat 2
She's been
steak and
consistent
lobster
with that for a
dinners
while.
in a sitting?
No, I wish I could say I did.
This
though.
is where like the one thing this contest has shown us, which is kind of cool for our viewers too, is like in the endurance sports world, your weight fluctuates a ton.
All the time.
All the time. So I think if anything, that should be a sign to people like don't freak out about 3-4 pounds.
Yeah.
Like
I
who
know,
cares?
yeah. It's like-
Who ca-
Well-
like you go on one hard run, sweat out
Yeah.
some salt, and
I'm not
drink
going to
a little.
lie to you
boom.
too. There was a time, and I'm like, I wanted to go beat my head against the wall, but then I said stop.
Yeah.
We were into this competition. I was 4 pounds down, and then I went and did a tough ride. And then I went and I ate lunch. It was a healthy lunch, and I drank a lot of water. And then like an hour later, I went upstairs and I was getting changed. And I'm like, I'm just gonna weigh myself real quick. I was up to
a pound.
I was up a lot. I was like
Yeah.
199 or 200
Yeah.
right in there. I'm like, oh my god. So
Yeah,
I mean,
frustrating if you
Yeah,
Yo,
take
exactly.
too
But
much.
earlier in
yeah.
that day, you were weighing like I was
5
weighing like
pound swing,
191. So
yeah.
it's like a 9 pound swing. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it can happen.
I've seen I've done something where it's like weigh myself after a run, like in Alabama heat. Like
Oh, God, yeah.
like something, and this is like really not healthy stuff. But like I remember I had this like 12-mile loop that I would do with there was no water on it because there was all these like crazy trails. And I've done this multiple times. One time I came up and started drinking out of this water fountain and then threw up because I drank so much water because I was so dehydrated. Like you're just like, this is like that, like you're in the desert, whatever,
Yeah.
kind of like feeling like you're. And one time I came home, weighed myself, and then put on 10 pounds within like a couple of hours. And I drank like, I don't remember, something like 3 liters of Gatorade, and then ate a McDonald's meal.
Yep.
And I mean, of course, I was pretty young or whatever.
Yeah.
It was like an unbelievable amount of weight that I could put on.
Lose 12 pounds, gain 12 pounds in an 8-hour period.
It was
Right.
It's pretty amazing. You're like, okay, I guess weight doesn't matter.
No, yeah,
you
it's
can't
like,
get hung up on a specific number too much.
Right.
But yeah, athletics and weight.
well, I
It's
mean, because think
crazy.
about it, you're losing so much water weight right there. I mean, especially if you're running in Alabama. I remember like the Ohio, Kentucky summers too, when we would go and train there. It's like, I had some crazy days where it's like, you go on a 5-hour ride and then run 10, 15 miles after I weigh myself, and I'm 10 pounds lighter than I was that morning.
It's pretty scary.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was one loop that was, I don't remember, in Birmingham somewhere, and it was like this hilly loop, and there was no water on that one either, except for the 2-mile mark of like a 17-mile loop or something crazy.
Yeah.
And I used to go with this guy who was like I don't know, he wasn't Olympian. He was not an Olympian. Well, I don't know if he was an Olympian or not, but he was like pretty close.
Trials guy.
Yeah, he definitely went to the trials like 3 times, and so he would just absolutely destroy me or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would get finished and be like woozy, like this is not safe. Because I mean, like if that happens to you and you're 2 miles further back up the up the trail, like
you're in trouble.
You're in trouble. There's no help coming. You know, like there's no spot to. There's no way for them to like drive up and pick you up.
Yeah,
you know.
This is why we live in the Pacific Northwest now.
Yeah, things are better now.
Yeah,
things are safer.
Okay, let's jump into today's topic. The topic today is how we deal with our struggles and emotions. How it affects things like our training, life in general, racing, motivation, etc., etc., etc. So, this was kind of inspired by a teammate of ours, Mike Reddick. I don't want to get into too many specifics on what his rationale and reasoning was for sending that over to us, but he kind of did deal with something that was pretty traumatic in his life, and he was curious to know how we deal with issues, and I thought that would be a great topic for us this week. So I'm curious.
It's an awesome topic, Mike. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Curious
ran
to know how
into
you guys.
Mike randomly on a ride the other day.
Really?
Did you?
I was just out riding random roads and going through Camas, and I was going past this house, and all of a sudden Mike was yelling at me. I was riding past his house. I didn't even know where he lived. Lance.
Yeah.
So that was
Going
kinda-
down Fargo.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, I was.
And then you turn right on Benton or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He
I
lives
don't-
out that
I don't-
direction. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
he's-
Yeah.
Yeah, over there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm curious, because the people around the table here have seen and done and been through quite a few things, and when you're the person that likes to put yourself out there, and you've got lots of friends and you've got family, I mean, it's inevitable that things are going to come up in life. And you guys are all like trained athletes, and you guys have been doing that for quite some time. How does that? How do you deal with that when it comes to dealing with adversity in life?
I've certainly been through some dark times,
Amen.
and man, it is so hard to be motivated to train or to get on a bike or to do anything physical when you are really in a dark place. I have found there's a difference between depression and depressing events or depressing things happening.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Depression is clinical, is something that needs to be treated clinically. Going through something depressing like a family member dying or losing a job, or which could lead to depression, but it's definitely there's a separate thing between depression and depressing events. And depression takes medical help to get out of.
It is a chemical imbalance.
Yes.
I think that is. I would hope in today's world people are starting to realize that more and more, that it is a
Right.
chemical imbalance that does need to be treated. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, go ahead.
But depressing events, doing things that make you feel good, can pull you out of those. The trick is to pick feel good things that aren't destructive. Drugs and alcohol can make you feel good for a while.
Yeah.
But that can be
Or a
destructive.
very short while.
Very
In my,
short while.
in my case, very short while.
Going for a ride or going for a run or letting the sun shine on your face can make you feel good. So, but Mike poses a difficult question to answer, and one that really, I guess, would come internally from you if you're really struggling with something. I mean, how do you push through, or how do you motivate yourself when you're feeling like crap?
Yeah, there's so many different ways that you can skin this cat, but for me personally, it's like having people to first confide in. They can support you through that issue that you're going through. That's a good place to start. But also, if you're confiding in people that share common interest in you, that you can go and find some of that good positive, eustress, if you will, instead of the distress. It's probably better to have. I'm not saying don't go drink or whatnot and go grab a beer just to kind of wallow in your sorrows, because it's sometimes that's okay, but don't let that be that slippery slope. And that is a slippery slope, as opposed to like Lance. Lance doesn't drink. That's great. And if I'm having a bad time and I told Lance about it, and Lance is going to be like, you know what? I know it makes Jake feel better. Let's go for a bike ride. And you go out there and you do that, and all of a sudden your body's chemistry does start to change, and it will have a positive effect on you. And an amazing thing happens for me when I come home from a bicycle ride. I feel infinitely better. And it's like, all right, you know what? That problem that just felt like it was going to crush you, it all of a sudden is like, all right, it's a problem, it's a hurdle, but you know what? That's a hurdle that I can jump over, and I can see it a little bit more clearly now that I can make that happen. So, yeah.
Last Friday when I missed that flight, and I was so frigging embarrassed and ticked at myself.
Hold on a second here. Brandy is calling you out on her YouTube channel, and she's like, but got another day on the bike. Maybe it wasn't a mistake.
It was not planned to miss the flight so I could ride again, because I knew there were no bikes on the island. But yeah.
In your defense, you had already done the one ride that
I'd
you
already
could
done
do in
the
that
one
area,
ride you
so
could do
why
in the
would
area.
you want to do it again?
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but I went, and I'm like, Brandy, what are we going to do? She's like, you need to go ride again. And I'm like, no, we're like, this is my screw up. I'm not going to be gone for 4 more hours. She's like, no, just go.
Yeah.
So I did. I went and got on the bike. I rode for 4 hours, and oh my gosh, afterwards I was like, Brandy, where do you want to go to dinner? What do you want to do? Whatever you want to do, I'm game. Because I just felt better after doing that, after getting that out of my system, after getting those endorphins, after making myself work a little bit. I just felt better. It was just, you want to drive all the way to Miami Beach to see Versace's house? We'll go do it. We didn't do that because she doesn't care. But you just put me in such a better place by having that.
Yeah. How do you pull yourself out of a clear rut, though? I mean, like the most recent one that I had was when we lost Michael Myers. Like I couldn't even bring myself to get myself even on the trainer in my little happy place in my little office. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. But I knew that I couldn't let that dictate how I was going to proceed moving forward. And I'm like, all right, I know. I think I missed 3 or 4 days. And I'm like, I got to get back to it. I know it's going to make me feel better, and it did. How do you guys deal with that? How do you deal with adversity?
One thing I remember, you guys can go back and listen to the podcast where we actually talk about Mike Myers. But one thing I thought was really cool was Lance just saying hey, I went out for this ride, and it was, I think it was what is the park down south?
Crater Lake National Park.
Crater Lake, that's where you went.
And you were just, I was, it was a moving discussion about how you felt on that ride.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us deal, I feel like there's different types of stress. There's you're mad at yourself, and you can go use exercise to punish yourself and hammer and whatever, and you'll feel better afterwards. And then there's this sick depression feeling, or a huge emotional loss. For me, it's go out for more of an easy run in that particular case, with lots of stops and just looking off at the lakes or whatever, and kind of soaking in some nature, which is kind of what I feel like maybe that Crater Lake ride was for you. It was just hey, this is, a really kind of a special moment, here out in God's gift of, a place and
it's
park
what it felt
and
like.
nature.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So I think that there's two, there's a lot of different emotional types of stress for sure. And I don't think that we can lump them all into just one category of emotional stress, but I, I think all of us here at this particular table use exercise to alleviate emotional stress.
Yes.
For sure. And it's one tool. It's definitely not the only tool for people that listen to this podcast, and that's not necessarily their tool. You know, I think your other suggestion of saying like, hey, find someone to confide in, find someone to talk in, you know, to talk with is another super fantastic suggestion.
I kind of agree with Jake here on, I think and I'll even lump myself into this. I think it's actually healthier for me to go and try and be around people whenever I've gone through stuff. I went through an event while I was in PT school where I was in a very bad place, and I took the approach of, and I've only shared this with a couple people around me, but I took the approach of training some absurd amount of hours a week. Yeah. Just try to numb it as much as possible. It wasn't even structured training. I trained like 32 hours a week while going to class, 40 hours a week and working, sleeping like 4 or 5 hours a night. I was like in my car for a little bit at this point, but like it was not something that like I would tell anybody to do. So I know all of us here reach out to that endurance sport as that outlet. But I think people like the people at this table and the people on Dialed need to look at, get yourself social and with people that are going to bring you up, and don't sit there and think that maybe like a 4 or 5 hour ride by yourself day after day after day is going to actually fix it. Because there is some addictive qualities that actually aren't addressing the problem.
You have to be able to mentally work through the issue by talking with somebody.
Yeah, and alone exercise is not going to be able to solve all problems like we sometimes think it can. So yeah, I think Lance is right there, where it's maybe go on that special ride that you love, and then share it with friends, go out to dinner with your loved ones, you know, do things that are outside of just the sport. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How about when you're dealing with like, not like loss or depression or things that are just like stress in general? I mean, can you guys, is it kind of the same thing for you? Or like, let's say that you're like, Lance is a good example here. You were managing multiple practices that were all over the place, and you got employees and you know, like bills and you know, patients and all these things. Like how did you deal with that load and trying to train?
You know what's funny? Well, I didn't train as much. Period. You know, that's the first thing. Yeah. I didn't train nearly as much. But my other first comment when I hear people say that, you know, ask me, how did you do that? How did you run 3 practices and have, you know, 4 real estate companies that you were running and 3 dental practices and manage all this stuff and have 3 kids and they all seem well adjusted and your wife seems happy? How did you do all that?
And train for an Ironman.
And train for an Ironman. That's right.
That was on the back burner.
Did that in there too. My response is, you're not as busy as you think you are.
Yep.
We waste a lot of time, a lot more time than you think you do. I mean, even now, I mean, really busy individuals, you find a way to do it. What I found is that because I was able to do something physical or some type of training, it focused me more for the rest of the day. It forced me to be more organized to do all that stuff. Because, okay, if I'm going to manage all this stuff, I'm going to have to organize where I'm going to fit this workout in. And so it forced me to be more organized with all of it. You know, certainly I had less free time, but I made time for the things I wanted to make time for.
Yeah.
If I still wanted to watch Gold Rush every week, I would watch Gold Rush on the Discovery Channel every week.
Gold Rush?
It's
Gold Rush was your
reality
go-to?
Friday nights
I
at
know.
9 o'clock.
Yeah, see?
That's your go-to? Gold Rush?
That show, there's something about an entrepreneur and like hard work and work ethic that draws me to that show, and I can see that being kind of the same thing for Lance.
Yeah.
So and the payoff.
Yeah. So I always found that by, you know, you want to get something done, you ask a busy person, because you just learn how to be more organized and whatnot. But I've also gone through times in my life too where, man, I just curled up on the couch and did nothing.
Yeah.
You know, a year ago, it's just a year ago, I'm recovering from this back surgery. Man, I didn't put my foot over a bike for 4 months. 4 months. It wasn't 4 days. It was, you know, 4 solid months. And I'd get invited to group rides with people that I really want to ride with, and I didn't want to go because I like couldn't squeeze into my friggin' Lycra.
Yep.
Or I'd get into my kit and I'd stand there in the mirror and I'm like, nope. I'm not going out in this. I'm like stretching the limits of this thing all over the place. I am not going out in this. I got to go buy new clothes.
Yeah.
You know, and then you just feel worse, and then you don't go outside, or I wouldn't go on the group rides because I was self-conscious about the belly roll, you know, and so it's a slippery slope to get down, and I certainly don't have all the answers. I just know that trying to be more consistent or trying to set up something you do consistently certainly helped pull me out of that hole.
Yeah.
And the other thing that definitely helped pull me out of the hole was you guys, was having friends to be accountable to and people that I could actually talk to and understood, you know, athletically what I was hoping to get to or try to do, and push me to be a little bit harder and better. That, you know, being part of the team, you know, that had a major impact on pulling me out of that hole.
Yeah.
So
I can concur with that. I mean, it's getting a little bit better now, I'm not going to lie, but like the 4 or 5 months after I got hit by that car, those were the worst 4 or 5 months of my life.
Yeah.
And the little bright, shiny moments that kept me wanting to come, you know, back and make trails towards getting fit again and making sure that I'm sticking to a program and a schedule and continuing to want to do all the things that I was passionate about was meeting with you guys on a weekly basis to sit here and talk about all the things, bikes and training and all that stuff, but the team as well. It's like all of these people, like they share my enthusiasm, and I get motivated by seeing, you know, their ride posts or their pictures or their accountings of like, you know, different things that they've gone out and done in racing. And that has really been, for me, it's been kind of like a savior. If I didn't have that, God, I'd be in such a bad place right now. Such a bad place.
Agreed.
So,
Yeah. I think that's really something that's kind of cool, because I think peer pressure sometimes gets talked about negatively, but I think in certain situations, especially when you're in a place like that where it's hard to maybe put on the Lycra and go out there for a ride, that pressure to actually get out there and go. I mean, I can talk from a much smaller scale, not even close to what Lance and Jake have been going through, but for me, like, I am a bad swimmer. So like me on Mondays jumping in the pool and forcing myself, like, I got to keep up with Matt and Nate today, is that peer pressure that kind of gets me through the stress of being not a great swimmer. So that's, I think, something that people kind of maybe talk down as like, oh, let's all be supportive of each other. But that peer pressure too can be good to kind of bring us out of those stressful times.
Yeah. Do you find a lot of stress in your life? I'm always curious about you because you are so flippin' busy. Like you trump all of us right now. I mean, you're working 50, 60 hours.
I don't trump Lance, but maybe at the moment.
50, 60 hour work weeks. And treating patients and dealing with everything that comes along with that. I know your profession, and I know it doesn't stop the second you walk out the door. You're always thinking about stuff and having to kind of come up with these little formulas of how to make people better. And there's all the other stuff that you have to do, like the documentation, all stuff. That part sucks, but it is what it is.
It just comes
but
with
then,
it.
then you come out there and you blow us out of the water with these 20 to 25 hour training weeks. And then you've got a social life and a girlfriend and family and friends that you're accountable. And I still ask myself, how is it that Evan shows up here every week? I mean, are you feeling pressures of stress right now? And what keeps you motivated and what keeps you from imploding from all of that?
So not to dovetail off both you guys, but the people in my life are the ones who keep me from going off the rails, because anybody who's known me I have a couple people who have, you know, I've moved around quite a bit in my life, but I do have some people who've been close to me for a long time, and they know I go off the rails when I'm alone. So when I'm alone, I don't operate well. I'll, you know, do very destructive sort of habits where it's overtraining, overstudying, I used to wake up at 4 a.m., train, go and study for boards, go to class, get back home, train, study again. I mean, it was that was there was no, hey, do you want to go like grab a coffee? Like that didn't fit into my schedule in any way, in any capacity. And now being around people who are positive influences in my life kind of dragged me out of that hole, which is good, because I can get pretty stuck into that hole. And it's not that I talk with Ryan, who I work with at the clinic, and Ryan kind of operates a lot like how I did. It's living in that stress. I actually feel comfortable. Like being overly stressed is what I like being. But at the same
all
time,
you've known as an adult.
Yeah, but at the same time, I hate it, which I know makes no sense on the surface, but it does. I know everybody at this table understands that. It's you live in this bubble of stress, and you feel when you're out of that stress, and all of a sudden you don't have something to do, you feel stressed because you don't have something to do. So I know that when I'm scheduled, oriented, and doing things, I operate at a better level, and as soon as I take myself out of that, I don't like myself anymore. So I got to throw myself back into that. So
it's interesting you say that. As part of my MBA training, when I got my master's in business, we took a class where we tested ourselves on emotional intelligence.
Yeah,
right.
I just took an emotional intelligence exam, actually. Yeah,
and it's big long exam, and one of the things that it was no surprise that the biggest result of this test for me personally was I have a incredibly high ability to deal with stress.
Yep.
I don't panic.
Yeah.
And that just made more sense to me why I was able to manage all these juggling hats that I had been juggling for.
Because to you, it wasn't
so
even your
long.
threshold of stress. Like you knew you had space to add, and that's
But what's funny that has happened since I sold all my dental offices, I didn't realize how much the stress affected me or my mood, even though I tried to put on a happy face. Man, by taking off some of that stress or finding an outlet for some of that, and I know what I'm saying is kind of ridiculous because, I mean, I retired at 47 and I sold all my stuff. Not everybody can do that. I understand that, but
earned it.
But,
I mean, that's
but by taking off that burden of that daily stress, I was just so much more open and happy and agreeable and personable.
Yeah.
Where I
Well,
was
increasing
before.
your exercise too. That that's chemically going to help change your
Up your endorphin
demeanor.
intake.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Being able to schedule your days around when I'm going to get my ride in and how I'm going to support my ride and what's the next ride, as opposed to patience and dealing with employees and business affairs. Those are two totally different things. Granted, you loved what you did and you were excellent at it, and it was fun to do it while you did it. But man, was it nice to turn that page and go into a new chapter? I'm sure.
And I guess I'm not giving very good advice.
No, yeah, this
and
is
I'm trying to give Evan some advice.
But no, this is like whether you think you're giving me advice or not. Like especially I mean, Jake's told me quite a bit of his. Jake obviously worked with physical therapists and was in the heat of a big complex clinic on how to run it, how to operate it. Matt has been, I mean,
he's worthless.
Up and down. That is not true. Freaking works 6 days overnight at Nike. I don't even know how you do that, honestly. And I mean, just me hearing these stories I am constantly self-assessing because, like I've already mentioned, I do know I don't always trust myself on what I do with myself. So I kind of need to be looking at people around me who do, who have gotten through periods like that and come out the other side better people and not destructive people by the time that they get to the end of it.
Yeah.
And not, still be people that, people want to be around. I don't ever want to be the guy, and I know older, I do not want to be the guy who's sitting there talking about what I used to be. I do not want to be that guy. I want to be the guy like that's
me.
Not true. Are you kidding? This is you're swimming faster than you ever have in your life.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's
I'm but
not saying much,
like
but-
I mean, I like Lance looks forward to every single next day right now. Jake just got hit by a car and is going to be racing this year. I mean, that's like there's the next day you're looking at, and I think that's that fine line of it's funny to me because Lance, when you mentioned you always have more time to do things no matter how stressed we all get. I just read this interesting Facebook article that is now trending all over. I can't believe I just used the term trending, but I know what that word means now.
Millennial.
I know what that word means now.
Turning
Just
into
learned
a
it last
real
week.
millennial. He's a real boy.
But this article was talking about the millennial burnout generation. Did you guys see this cycling through? Now, I'm sure people are going to disagree with me. That's fine. I read that article and almost laughed to myself that it sounded like the most complainy millennial Like it basically
No
was saying
comment.
it's like no generation has worked or tried to achieve as hard as we do. And I'm sitting there chuckling. I'm like, I don't see that in my generation at all.
You
I
kind
don't.
of, if
I
you
see
think about
it
it,
to
it seems
some
like
extent.
all the previous generations always worked harder
Yeah.
than the
Yeah.
current one, right? I mean,
You want to go back to work hours? Yeah, work hours around like the 1920s, 1930s. They
yeah.
like went home when it was like, we're out of like candle fluid now, or whatever. Like we can't turn the lights on anymore. I guess we go home now.
Yeah.
And then you wake up as soon as like you're there at work as soon as the sun comes up.
Yeah.
Like,
Child labor.
yeah, I mean, we seriously, like kids were working full-time jobs at the age of 15, had families by 18, grandkids by 28, and they're like, but it's just, I think in my generation we get too in our heads that we're busy because it is attractive to be busy, but we don't realize how much free time we actually have.
Yep.
You can be working while doing laundry in today's world. So our stress level, like my generation's stress levels aren't as high as we actually think they are.
Yeah.
Like I can be sitting there answering emails, doing laundry. There was a time where laundry was done by hand. So like this is laundry
Right.
was a full day process basically. Like there's not, I mean, does the availability and connectivity make life more stressful? Yes, absolutely. Like I realize that with myself. On Saturdays, I don't look at my phone for emails. I don't. I'll answer other stuff, but very rarely emails. I do meetings on Sundays, but Saturdays I leave the phone.
Yeah. Huh. Matt, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You have some pretty big clients, and you've got one extremely big client that has a lot of
Nameless.
demands.
Except for when Evan's on the mic.
How?
Oh, yeah.
And you're trying to adhere to a pretty strict regimen. You've
Sure.
got 3 young kids. You've got a wife, and you've got all of the other different like mediums that you're dabbling in
Right.
right now and doing an excellent job, might I add. How do you deal with like this big swooshy client when they come in and say we want this done like yesterday and you
Yeah.
need to get it done, and all of a sudden you have to press pause on everything in life and spend a week literally 24 hours a day working on
Yep.
a project? How do you deal with that kind of stuff? Is that
It's-
hard?
Oh, it's actually the easiest part of my life.
Really?
Yep, because like my whole family gets it. Like they're just like, yep. I mean, they're not pumped about it at all.
Yeah.
But they just like get it. They're like, Dad's gonna be gone. Like it seems to work. That I actually, we were just like listening to all of us talk about stress and stuff like that, and this like where I feel like real true like stress, like the actual hormones and stuff like that is probably like family stress. Like, and maybe I'm the only one. I may be the only one, but it's like kids constantly need help like all the time.
Yep.
So it's almost like you're always on. And then like my wife like does so much work. Like she is kind of like Evan, like it's just always on, like cranking. Like she's amazing. And but then that puts extra stress on like our relationship too. And I'm just like that relation, like family relationships, the most important. So I think that's probably why it's like the most stressful
Prioritize
in some
yeah.
ways, right? Where it's like, if some work client were to drop me, I would be super stressed because I have like a fear of failure problem. But like at the same time, I'm like, but like the family stress I feel like is pretty hard. So when the like it's crunch time for work, like as for Jake's question, it's pretty reasonable because I'm good at what I do. I feel pretty confident saying that. Like I'm not, big on like tooting my own horn,
I
but
think
like
you could say that. Yeah.
I'm good at what I do. My clients like my work. I try to set one of the things that I still need to work on this, like set reasonable expectations. Like there's only 24 hours in each day or whatever. And so when it's game on, like earlier a couple months ago or whatever it was, I was at Nike or whatever for 6 days, all every
It was
night
a
or
whole
whatever
week,
it was.
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it was 7, but it was just like, that was stressful, but you just go do your job and everything else goes on the back burner. Like
Yeah.
try to get a little exercise in. That's it. Like just try to get a little exercise in. Like that's not really what we normally do. Like normally it's like go hit the pool for an hour and a half and you have to do this workout and blah blah blah. And if your main focus is just like get that work thing in, then the pool workout exercise blah blah blah, that's just like, hey, go sneak in 30 minutes so that you feel better when you're working the next 16 hours doing whatever it is in Beaverton. But like so I feel like things almost come together a little bit smoother when you're that busy, only because everything else basically has to bend and move out of the way to make that one thing happen. So it's when you are trying to kind of juggle too much stuff and make everything perfect that I think things are hard, right? Where it's like, if you just have to make one thing great, then I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit more easy. What do you think?
That's actually a really good point,
Yeah.
is to narrow it. I mean, because we talk about, like, for instance, I'll just throw it out, like,
Yeah.
two people at the table have done an Ironman.
Yeah.
If you present the idea of an Ironman to your typical person, that sounds like a super stressful day. It was like, holy heck, you're traveling 140 miles.
Right.
Like, that is a stressful day. But it's one thing at a time. You are
Yep.
focusing on swim stroke by swim stroke. Okay, I'm out of the water now. I'm on the bike.
Yeah.
It's the same idea when you're just doing that one thing at work.
Right.
It's not, you don't have 4 or 5 things on the horizon that are stressing you out. It is, I am doing this one thing.
Right.
And that's easier to manage that stress than, I'm working right now, just got a text from the kids. I got to go pick up the kids. How am I going to
Yeah.
squeeze in this bike ride
Right.
later? Got to make dinner.
And that's what I was thinking. I was like, you were talking about a lot of the things that were stressing me out, and I was thinking to myself, I bet you, I hope Cassie's not listening to this. I bet you having the girlfriend might be like the most stressful thing, because you have this relationship that's super important to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you're like, okay, well, I want to do this brunch or whatever, but this is my normal, my normal bike ride is this hour thing. And then I have to like cut that short. And it's like that stuff where it's like, I'm circumventing this to do this other thing that's super important. And it's like, that is stress in my mind.
I'll be completely honest.
This is brutal honesty.
This is brutal honesty. So I have been in quite more than a few serious relationships in my life. This is the first one I've ever been in where she is honestly the most understanding person I have ever met about my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I have a very unreasonable lifestyle that really shouldn't be understood. Like, it should be changed.
We're all crazy, and we think you have an unreasonable lifestyle.
And that's what I've realized is because I even look at, I stalk professional triathletes and what they train. And I was like counting up the totals yesterday. I was like, I'm training close to what like Javier Gomez was. And like, they're only the guys trained to 30s, and a couple guys who touch 40 are training more than me. And I was like, that's not reasonable or understandable.
Yeah.
But she completely, like, there are mornings I'll wake up and I'll be like, I really don't want to go swim. She's like, you better go swim. It's like, okay, well, there. So it's like, there's no explanation of stuff. And as long as I've been very honest with, if I'm able to make something, I'm going to.
Right.
Like, I don't shut down with her. Like, I will make sure, hey, we're going to do brunch together. We're going to do dinner together. We're going to do this together. Just making sure that I'm not being selfish at the same time.
Good. I'm glad
But
I'm glad it's going well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I got a couple quick questions here for this topic before we wrap it up. Do you guys find yourself being capable of harnessing these emotions to produce better outcomes for when you're on the bike or running or swimming or in a race?
Absolutely. Does anybody else here race angry really well?
Yes.
I love being angry when I race. Oh, I like
Angry
pick
works.
people to hate for no reason. Like, each season I'll have like 1 or 2 guys that I hate, and then I'll meet them and they'll be super nice. I'll be like, oh crap, I gotta choose somebody else now.
I hope I was that person for you.
No, because I met you too early. I didn't rate. I really met you too early, and I was like, dang it, Matt's like as goofy as I am. I can't hate him.
Yeah.
How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I'll say yes. I mean, and absolutely, being angry works. Like, you can be, and I can be angry at myself too.
Yeah.
Which also works.
Yep.
And you can just turn yourself inside out. And triathlon is weird though, because it's such a long event that I do pretty well if I'm trying to keep myself like calm and mellow. In which case, like, there are different emotions that you can call upon, like being like super grateful. Like, I just remember like doing the Ironman Arizona. Like, you have this huge stress of starting a 10-hour day or whatever it is, and you're in this water group of people, and people are hitting you and all this stuff like that. And like, I just remember thinking to myself, like, man, I'm pretty lucky that I get to do this.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Like, I'm like, the sun's going to come up, the sun's going to rise in a minute. And I'm like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it just like your stress level just drops a little bit, and you're like, all right, this is pretty
Keeps
cool.
the heart rate down.
You know?
That's good.
And you have such a long period of time in that triathlon that you're going to have different emotional things. Like, you can do that. You can kind of like de-stress for a little bit. You can be like, oh, I'm going to get angry at this guy. Like, you just have all this time to work. In the same race, at the end of that race, I was my legs were falling apart because I went out on the run too hard and just ran stupid. So there was that situation where I was mad at myself. And I was furious at myself, like very, very angry. And I was somewhere around mile 22 and I couldn't hit basically I needed to hit 10-minute miles and I couldn't do it. And I was so angry. And I ran the last 3 miles pretty fast. And the last 2 miles were like 7-minute pace, like super fast, you know, for
angry runner,
whatever it was. And it was just like, that was being pissed at myself. That's all that was. There was no like gratitude or anything. I was just pissed. Absolutely
thankful
pissed.
for throwing on the running shoes there that day.
Yeah. No. That was, and I was mad at myself. It wasn't anyone else. There was no one on the road that I was mad at. It was just like, curse word. Like, you know better than to run
You
stupid.
could have screwed this,
Like,
yeah.
And then how did that all change once you crossed the finish line and saw that you came in sub 10?
I was pretty pumped, but at that point you're just so trashed, I mean, you're elated, but also ready to sit down or cry or
and
just
eat.
like just sit and just be like,
That was
I don't
probably
move
my
legs.
favorite picture of that year. The picture that somebody took of you at the finish line, and your wife was kind of like consoling you, and like I think she might have even been like kissing your head or something.
Yeah,
like
your
that.
head's
Kids
down.
Were there
I
or
like
something
that picture. Yeah,
I like that picture too, and it's on my YouTube channel. It's on like the header.
It's
of
the banner,
channel.
isn't it? Yeah.
because I think it's pretty
It's a
cool.
great picture.
Yep.
Yeah.
How about, like, we've talked about anger.
Yeah.
What about sadness? Can you guys harness that and use it to push you positively, to kind of give you a charge?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think I can.
I can
I've
in
struggled with that.
training, but yeah.
Not in racing. If I'm sad about something, I don't think a race would. I don't think I would be able to focus very well on that. I think I would struggle with that.
Yeah. What you meant?
Yeah, I think my thoughts are like, if I'm sad about something, you'll tend to see me like go for an easy run with lots of random stops.
Yeah.
Like trying to soak up whatever. And it does not bode well for a race in my personal experience. Yeah.
It's kind of tough.
I've had races or runs and things like that where I was sad and I like still did okay. Like I did okay. Like not bad, but like, and then but that kind of gives you that kind of like, oh, thank goodness, I got through this race and this other bad thing happened, right? But not like great performance.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Evan?
Yeah. The only times I can think truly when I was going into races sad, it really got more funneled into like a frustration sort of emotion, which I do race well when I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, the last time I can think like sadness came out, and it was a very like, this is not like legitimate sadness, like obviously like life experiences, but it was like during St. George when I started cramping up, like I actually felt sad that for some, I was like, I put in a ton of and now I look back and I was like, there was a ton of things I was doing wrong at that time. Like I'm significantly fitter now because I corrected those mistakes.
Yeah.
But like at that time, I do remember feeling sad, and that just turned immediately into frustration.
Yeah.
And then turned into Matt's like, got really pissed at myself, like really pissed at myself.
The,
So,
the positive that comes out of that, though, is that in the moment it sucked, and right after it sucked. But retroactively, thinking back on everything, you learned from that, and you need that.
Oh, yeah.
You needed to have that experience.
That's the
going
only
into
reason I
your
love
pro
triathlon
career.
right now.
Yeah.
Like really, that's like I look back at that race, missing a turn at Blue Lake and sucking at Pat Crest, and that was like the three things that have really pushed me. I had a terrible spell.
That was 3 in a row.
Yeah.
It was just like,
It was bad. I was not in good shape. I didn't like what I was doing, and it's really changed to this season. Like I think I'm a completely different athlete, like mentally and physically. So yeah.
Going into the sadness bit, I probably am in the same boat as you.
Yeah.
And kind of like would gravitate towards the Matt approach of just kind of going out, and it's not even a workout, it's not a training session, it's just being outside and kind of taking in nature and kind of reflecting. But after a little bit of time has passed, Michael's a perfect example.
Yeah.
I
think that's what we all
forever
go to
going to be
with this,
sad
yeah.
about losing my friend. I still feel like he's out there somewhere. You kind of feel his presence too, which is kind of neat. And I don't want to get into the discussion on that, but I kind of feel like he's around. I kind of feel like he's still with us, and I know that he's looking over. So I can harness that. And I know like what he wanted for this season, and he and I had great conversations and discussions about what we want to accomplish this year, both individually and from a team perspective. And so I can kind of like channel that now, and I'm still going to be sad, but I can channel that and like, I'm going to do this for you. That's a driving factor behind me wanting to get my butt back into shape and back out training hard and competing so I can win something for him. I want to
and that
honor him,
sadness has funneled you into something into a very
Yeah.
goal-driven mindset, almost like a
Yeah.
motivated sort of mindset.
Yep.
So I think, yeah, with the sadness question, it's not as much how do you channel that emotion. I think it's how do you funnel that emotion into something else.
Yeah.
Because I kind of agree with you, Lance. Like I don't think I could train or race hard truly sad, just like actually at that moment sad.
Yeah.
That sadness has to be channeled into something else,
Yeah.
or to like eat you up. Yeah.
And there's another thing too. Like you got to know when to just press pause and stop, because training isn't always the answer. I mean, there's going to be a time where you just literally have to press pause and stop. And I went through that again with Michael. I had to press pause and stop for those 3 or 4 days. And theoretically it could have been longer, but there's times too when stress, or if there's too much stuff going on with family, like training doesn't trump all. It doesn't come first. I mean, it's pretty low on my hierarchy of like what goes on in my life. So you've got to kind of prioritize things, and you got to know when to press pause and know that you can always come back to it, and it will always be there, and your friends will always be there, and the team will always be there, and the races will always be there. Go deal with your business and know how to bring it back into your life so that you can use it as a tool, but you got to know when to press pause.
Yeah.
So yep. And then one last thing for me, and if you guys want to add anything else before we wrap this up, I've been through some crap in my days. I haven't gotten into great detail with you guys, and those are stories that we can share more as that time comes on. But there's been times where you're dealing with family stuff and then like work stuff. I mean, I used to have a pretty sizable business. I had 35 employees. I had a 20,000 square foot training facility. I had a monthly operating cost of, it got up to like $85,000 at one point in time. That was the nut that we had to crack every month. And there was times where things would go sideways, and all of a sudden like you have a hiccup and you're like, oh crap, how am I going to deal with that? It's like, I remember back in 2008 when the market crashed, we lost like a huge chunk of our cash business because people just couldn't deal with it. Like in Southern California, like housing just fell apart. People were losing their jobs, and all of a sudden we went from a segment of our business that was generating $40,000 a month went down to like $5,000 a month. That's a pretty big, substantial amount of money to all of a sudden lose.
Jeez.
And thankfully we had other parts of the business that we were able to ride that wave, but those were some super stressful times. And how I got through that was making friends with my bicycle and going out and decompressing, and that helped me find that mental clarity. And like, all right, this is how we're going to adjust, and this is how we're going to get through this. And dealing with all the other little things that come up along the ways, that always was something that helped me come through it. But at the end of the day, no matter how bad it gets, everything always has worked out for me. I've dealt with some crap, I could use some other words here, but everything has always worked out. And if you stay positive and you surround yourself with good people, you're going to be in a good place. You just got to give it some time to pass and use these little devices and these aids and these tools as a means to get there. Lance is a perfect example of that as well. I don't know how many bad things you've had to deal with, but I know that you've had to deal with some stuff. Yeah. And it always worked out, I can't bring somebody back that has passed, but you'll find some solace, you'll find some peace, and you will be able to channel that for greater good, just like we've discussed. That's just my 2 cents. So anything else you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
That's a great note to wrap that topic
That's an
up.
absolutely awesome note. Yep.
One last thing. Let's start with Evan.
All right.
Looking across the table at you.
I'm going to bring it back to professional cycling again, because we talked a lot about professional cycling last week, which was cool. And the season's barely starting to heat up right now, like just barely. And there was the Tour Down Under this last week, which is in obviously Australia. And the last stage, if you want to watch just like, if you got a trainer ride coming up and you want to hit the YouTube, watch, I think it's stage 6, I think is the final stage. I think it's a 6-day. Yeah.
Sure.
Stage 6 is where they go up this hill called Wollonga Hill, which is always how they end the Tour Down Under. It's always this stage where they do this circuit where they go up and down Wollonga Hill. I forget how many laps they do on it. But it is the coolest stage to watch because this hill is a killer. I forget what percentage it gets up to, but it is an absolutely terrible hill to have to, let alone climb up once. They repeat it on this crit course,
They did it
basically.
Twice, I think.
Twice, yeah.
I think they only
Did Richie
twice.
Port win the whole thing?
So he won the sprint up
won the
Wollonga
stage.
Hill. Yeah, so he's won now Wollonga Hill stage 6 times, which is just unprecedented.
Wow.
I mean, the guy's literally, he is made for that climb. But it was very exciting because on the first climb up at Sky, Walter, I forget the guy's name. two guys on Sky get away, and they don't quite stay away, but they make the race very, very exciting when they tried to get away. So it was kind of hopeful for this year to see like, hey, maybe Sky's not going to be able to just purely dominate a lot of these, situations. Like maybe somebody like Port's hitting some good, form. Daryl Impey won, if anybody cares. But
Okay, yeah, I was curious. I didn't know. And
Yeah.
I like Richie Port. I'm a fan.
yeah,
So,
I would love to see
We'll
him
see.
actually have a season where he can be competitive in Grand Tours.
but I don't like the fact that I feel like he's hopped around on teams.
He's
a little
old now
bit.
too. I
What-
think he's like 30.
Is he on Trek now?
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's on
BMC
Trek.
broke up. He went
Oh,
on to
BMC
Trek.
broke up. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not really his fault that he moved on.
No.
Okay,
No, his
All right.
contract was up anyway. So
Yeah.
I can still like Richie Port.
Yeah.
that's
he's
good.
He's a good guy.
He's
Yeah.
a good guy.
He seems super cool. Yeah, he likes to swim, so
He does.
must
Yeah.
be cool.
One last thing, Lance.
I don't have anything that actually really comes to mind. I'm a little foggy anyway, so
Hope you feel better, man.
I hope you find some healthier.
I'm just gonna get back on my bike all week.
Just keep eating; it'll make
There
you
you
feel
go.
better.
I'm gonna eat
Just keep
all day. No,
Matt,
On last Wednesday, I posted a YouTube video to the old YouTubes with some camera work from Evan Price on the drone.
the shoddy camera work from
check
me.
it out.
that was
Which
an
is
awesome
awesome,
video.
which is
Right?
awesome. And
Yeah.
and Evan and I were talking
You
about
put it
this.
together so well.
Well, I definitely am one of my worst critics, if not my worst critic. But it's not without problems. But I do like that particular video. If you're interested in it, it is about like track workout and why I think it's probably one of the most important things to make you a faster runner. And it is starring Evan Price on the track.
I look tired in that video.
You
we
look tired.
we
Maybe you
we,
were.
we caught me when I look pretty tired in there, which I like.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was
You
good.
can
Yeah.
actively see that video. It's already up on the Dow Podcast Facebook page. So go check it
Nice.
out.
Nice.
Cool.
Jake, one last thing.
We have a big team ride coming up this weekend. Anybody who is local and wants to come out and join us, we have, I think already about 10 people that are like signing up to go. And we just kind of put the word out. But we did this ride last year, and I think we had, I think it was like 30 or 40 people. It was a pretty big ride.
I thought it was bigger than that, honestly.
It might have been. I can't remember.
I
Maybe
think
it was
it may have
40
been
to
around
50.
40 or 50 people.
Yeah.
It was a big ride.
Yeah, we did it. It would. We're going to be a week or two later than we did it last year. But I was kind of waiting for the weather to cooperate so I could join. Little selfish little thing there for me. But it is 80 miles, and there's a bunch of out and backs. So if you get dropped, you can kind of like circle back around and jump back on the wagon once the group comes flying back by. It is going to be a drop ride. So if you get dropped, sorry, we're not stopping because.
But it loops back. I mean, like there's sections where we loop back, so you can always turn around. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just gonna be a good time, and I'm really kind of excited to go out and see if I can, I know physically I can hang. I just want to make sure that my shoulder's stable. And if people don't want to do the full 80 miles, it's a pretty compact ride too. It's not like we're going way out of our way here. You can peel off if you can only do 30, 40, 50, 60 miles. You're more than welcome to do that. So it will be a fun ride to come on out. And if you are interested in doing that, you can go to the Dialed Cycling Strava group. And if you're not a part of that group, join it, and then you can add yourself to the ride. Come out and join us. We're going to be leaving at 8:30 from Hopworks Urban Brewery in Vancouver, Washington.
And I haven't seen any details on that ride, and I'm super excited about it. What's the route? Is it towards Washougal? Is it towards?
It's a flat ride,
Is
baby.
it Vancouver
Very,
Lake?
it is like
It's-
very flat.
Yeah.
We're going out to Vancouver Lake,
Okay.
and then out to Troutdale.
No,
and
Okay.
Well, we're gonna do like Vancouver Lake, all the fingers out there.
all
to
the fingers
Frenchman's
out.
Bar,
Yep.
Okay.
and then crossing over the 205 bridge. and
I-05
205
bridge.
Go over the
Oh,
five.
the 5 bridge. Sorry,
The 5,
the
yeah.
bridge.
Which is the scariest part of the ride, in my opinion. Is that many
And then
people
all the
going
way out
across
to
the 5.
Troutdale and all the way back to the 5 bridge.
Okay. Troutdale and then back. Okay.
Yep,
Sounds good.
So, it should be fun because I think the weather's looking like it's gonna be nice. It's calling for
Hopefully.
some sun and some low 50s, if I'm not
I think it's still
mistaken.
calling for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can wear my time trial helmet and.
Sure.
Yes, please do
Okay.
that.
Good. Yes. my tri
Is
kit.
that a yes?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Disc wheel or no disc wheel?
Disc it up, baby.
Okay. Should I put my TT helmet on forwards or backwards?
Whichever makes you feel better.
Okay. It always makes me feel better when I feel like a unicorn. I ride like a unicorn.
Yes.
Hey guys, real quick before we sign off here, just if you guys haven't been watching on the Facebook, the YouTube channel where we do the live stream, got to come check that out next week, or you can always log back on later and watch the taped version of it. But why don't you guys turn around and say hi, you and Matt, Evan.
What's up,
ladies and gentlemen.
ladies and gentlemen?
People get to see the backs of you guys this head quite a bit, so I
Yeah.
just wanted to give them a
That,
sneak peek.
that's
of your,
by design. We don't want to break the camera.
Exactly. Yeah.
I also
We have a
was
face for radio.
I also was live streaming it to my personal Facebook page too. We were trying a couple different things today to see how that worked. So I'm using a GoPro to live stream to my personal Facebook page.
And speaking of Facebook, you guys can always come check us out on Facebook. We do post some stuff up there from time to time, but that's the At Dial Podcast. And on the Instagrams, Matt and Lance both have credentials to log on to said Dial Podcast Instagram account. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they'll post some stuff because they get outside a heck of a lot more than I do, and they take cool pictures. And like I said last time, you don't want to see me posting pictures of me sweating on the trainer because that's just not fun, nor does anybody want to see that. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for coming back, Lance. I hope
Thanks
you
for
feel
having
better.
us.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
And good luck with all of your training this week. And hopefully we'll see you guys all at the team ride on Saturday.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll be
All
there.
Thanks for listening, guys. Have a good week. Bye for now.